let's kick off. So I'm Tim Youngs. I'm the project director for Connecting the Colne, and my day job is the manager of the Blackdown Hills Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty. I'm joined tonight by various other colleagues from the National Trust, West Country Rivers Trust as well. And where, yeah, it's really a celebration and an update about the work that's going on in Killerton, funded by the Green Recovery Challenge Fund and part of Connecting the Colne. So I'll be introducing the session briefly and then chairing the Q&A. I'll then be passing over to Tim DeFawn, National Trust, and Joe Neville from West Country Rivers Trust as well. So please post your comments and thoughts in the chat as we go. And then in the last, we've got about 40 minutes of talks. And then the last 20 minutes is open to questions. So we'll be using the chat for those questions. So if you can hold on to, well, record in the chat and then we'll get to them nearer the end. So, so no, we're delighted you can make it. And I was just going to share a few slides with you, if I may. So I'll just share my screen. If I can get it to work. Hopefully people can see that okay. Yeah, so as I said, we event tonight being hosted by Connecting the Colne Team, National Trust, West Country Rivers Trust. And out of the funders too are really worth promoting or highlighting Interreg 2Cs, which is a European funding stream. We're working with other UK partners and partners across Belgium, France and Holland. And then the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, which is government funding. So just a really quick whiz through about the Connecting the Colne project. So it's a whole catchment project, 100 square miles from the headwaters up in the area of outstanding natural beauty that I look after, all the way down to Killerton, which is what we're talking about tonight, which is the yellow star on the map at the bottom end. And obviously all the water that drains down lands up at Killerton. So it's a project with a wide range of partners, including Mid Devon District Council, National Trust, West Country Rivers Trust, Environment Agency and Devon County Council. And what we've done over the last couple of years or so is quite a detailed analysis of the whole catchment, working with the partners. And each part of the catchment has its own characteristics, geology and soils. There's obviously a whole range of landowners. And depending where you are in the catchment depends on what measures you might want to put in place along with the topography as well. So, so working really closely with groups of landowners, which is the picture in the top right, we're gathering a lot of evidence using citizen science. So we're looking at particularly focusing on flood and drought, but also water quality, biodiversity and historic heritage. And we've just started putting interventions in place, which is the picture at the bottom there. So quite small scale features that fit into the landscape and help attenuate flows and provide wildlife habitat. And what we're aiming for and building is a blueprint, 25-year blueprint for the Colne, which is the vision for the future. And we've done some visualizations with an artist to show what a future resilient and nature-rich Colne catchment could look like. And this jigsaw really shows all the players involved. So we're working with local communities and local landowners, but we've also got some key players, including Network Rail, who are particularly interested in heel crossing. Highways England, now National Highways actually, that look after the M5 motorway. We've got Forestry Commission, South West Water with all their infrastructure. And then we've got new kids on the block, hopefully, which are the beavers who are just over the watershed in the Otter catchment. So yeah, lots going on, lots of interested parties, and that's all being sewn up together into this blueprint for the future. So yeah, my last slide was really just to plug our forum event, which I'm hoping Dominic or Sarah could put in the chat actually. On the Wednesday, 17th of November, we've got Connecting the Colne Forum. Everybody's very welcome to that. And we've got a very active volunteering program. So if you're keen to become a citizen scientist, then please join us and join the movement of people out there measuring, surveying and doing lots of useful things. So so I hope that's been a I'll stop sharing now. I hope that's been a useful introduction. And now I'm going to pass over to Tim DeFawn to tell us more about the work at Killerton. Oh, you're on mute, Tim.
Hi, everybody. So yeah, Tim DeFawn, I'm the countryside manager for the National Trust on the Killerton estate. I'm just going to share my screen and I'll just give you I'm going to give you the basic kind of information about what we're doing at Killerton as part of the Green Recovery. I'm also joined by Joe Neville from the West Country Rivers Trust and my colleague Emma Jones, who's one of our area rangers, who's been doing lots of the leading on lots of this green recovery work. So I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour of what we're trying to achieve at Killerton this year. So just share my screen. So just bear with me whilst I get that to work. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, yeah. So it's an exciting time to be able to talk about our green recovery, and partly it's very pertinent really because of COP26 happening this week, and there's lots of talk about political leaders talking about what they'd like to do, but I really feel like what we're going to talk about tonight is actually what we are doing. So this is real action that we're doing to help with nature restoration and for climate adaptation in East Devon. So it's a kind of antidote to the kind of talk, and it's really we're showing you what's actually happening on the ground this year. So before we talk about the specifics of the project, I wanted to share with you a video that we produced last month that shows you how the work we're doing this winter links to climate change and climate adaptation. So I just wanted to share with you this video before going through the specifics of what we're achieving this year. So it's about just under 4 minutes long, and I hope it will give you a real kind of bring things to life really as part of our presentation this evening. Hopefully the technology works.
My name's Fee Hailstone and I'm one of the area rangers on the Killerton estate in Devon. We're currently in one of our wood meadows, but the entire estate makes up 6,400 acres of Devon countryside. It's a rich tapestry of farmland, orchards, parkland and woodland. We're experiencing much wetter and milder winters, storm events and summer and spring droughts. To help our land adapt to the threats that climate change poses, we're undertaking 9 projects across the estate this year, and that's all thanks to the Green Recovery Challenge Fund from DEFRA. This winter we'll be planting 70,000 trees across the estate. 4 kilometres of new hedgerows, new woodland, areas of wood pasture with grazing animals, protecting our ancient and veteran trees and planting those ancients of the future with 600 trees outside of woodlands. As well as working with all of our wonderful farm tenants to make these projects happen, we're also partnering with the Woodland Trust, the Farm and Wildlife Advisory Group and the West Country Rivers Trust. One of the main parts of the funding is restoring the River Colne floodplain. Here's Joe to tell you more about that project.
And I'm really excited to be part of this project with National Trust, which is happening right across the Killerton estate. But the element I'm most involved in is the River Colne section and the floodplain of the River Colne. And it runs for about 3 kilometres across the Killerton estate, provides a really important habitat corridor and network through the landscape. But we're working to increase its resilience to some of the challenges that climate change is going to bring. So we're going to be working to create a mosaic of habitats all down the river, and that will include some planting along some of the riverbanks to increase some of the shade and the cooling effect that that gives to some of the river water, which is really important when we're going to be having more periods of really hot weather and drought. That can really impact fish and other species. And then we're going to be working in select little areas, doing some little tree works, taking out a few limbs to allow the light into specific areas of the riffles and the gravels where the fish come to spawn and other animals come to feed. We'll also be creating structure in the floodplain itself. So we're going to be doing what we call scrapes. So we're creating some shallow pools within the floodplain area, wider floodplain area. And again, that's creating more structure and more diversity. It's creating additional habitats that don't exist here at the moment. And that will be amazing for amphibians, reptiles, all sorts of insects, birds, plants. At the moment it's fairly flat grassland along the floodplain. Very quickly it's going to change. It's going to have all this structure and these habitats that people are going to be able to experience. We're going to see wet woodland, we're going to see standing water, we're going to see all sorts of scrub and wildflower meadows. And that is going to be amazing to watch it change, and we're going to be doing monitoring and surveys, see what impacts it has, to look at the amount of carbon that we're storing with the trees and the wetlands, and to see the different species that might come and make this area their home.
As a result of this work, we'll be able to stabilise soils, store more carbon and water, and create more shade for livestock, which is vital in our hot summers. This is just the beginning at Killerton. We're thinking really long term.
Okay, so I hope that gives you a real good insight into what we're aiming to do and how it links to climate change and adaptation. But the scale of what we're doing at Killerton is only possible by a combination of working with our partners, our tenant farmers, and our team of rangers, foresters and volunteers. So it's a collaboration, and that's what enables us to trial new techniques, but also to use tried and tested approaches to creating habitats and working with nature. So one of the things I mentioned earlier, the government, government funding is enabling us to do this. And it's not just about nature restoration, it's also about economic revival, restoration from the pandemic. So part of the work that I'll be showing you, these projects we're doing, they're all really be putting money into the local economy, whether it's with contractors, or we've got an apprentice who's part of the green recovery. We've got a project officer with the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group. So there are economic benefits to all the work that we talk about this evening. So to start with, just wanted to highlight the partnerships that we mentioned earlier on in the video. So these are the organisations that the National Trust has built up the relationship with to help us deliver these projects this winter or this year in total. And they're bringing their expertise to enable us to work on specialist areas, whether it's river restoration that we're talking about this evening, or whether it's about how you can work with the farming community to get nature gains, or with the Woodland Trust, the specialist survey skills around ancient trees and ancient woodlands and what we can do to improve those. So these are the key partnerships as part of our work this year. So it's a really a statewide project, and I've just brought up the image here of the estate. So this is 6,500 acre estate, lowland estate in Devon, and these different coloured patches represent all the projects that we're involved with. And I'm just going to give you a whistle-stop tour of each of those projects so you can understand the scale of what we're working on this year. So the purple area at the top is what the main focus of this evening is about, and that's the River Colne. But I'm going to take you through some of the other projects that have been planned and ready for delivery this year. So let's just to start with, I want to talk about the new woodland. So this picture here It shows 4 fields which are down in the Clist catchment, just south of Ashcliffe Forest. And on this site and other sites, we'll be planting 40,000 trees and native broadleaf trees in these areas. There'll be areas for natural regeneration as well. But that is quite a large scale. We've kind of got used to it as a team to say 40,000 trees, but it shows you the ambition that the National Trust has got in terms of storing carbon, creating new habitats, restoring the soil, holding back water. All these projects are aimed at making nature gains where we can, but also helping with some of the issues that we're challenged with. So the areas in yellow will really are the new woodland plantings that's happening this year. So moving on from the new woodland planting, the Woodland Trust have been helping us to identify and resurvey some of our ancient and veteran trees on the estate. And not many people know, but the Killerton estate has got one of the biggest collections of ancient and veteran trees in the National Trust care. And we have got a duty, and we want to do what we can to protect the trees we've got, but also to plant the new trees of the future. So the Woodland Trust has surveyed 800 trees this year. They've identified approximately 100 that are at risk. So either from being competition from other trees or land management, or other challenges to those trees. So part of the work with the Woodland Trust is to identify those trees, but also to help us put in some mitigation. So whether it be changing fencing around those trees, thinning around them so they can survive. But a big part of this winter's planting is to replace those trees. So we'll be planting 600 open grown trees, as the term is called, and they'll be the ancient trees of the future. And that's a big part of why the Woodland Trust have been supporting this work. We're also looking on this map, you can see the blue areas. They are our ancient woodland sites on the estate. And part of the Woodland Trust's element is we're looking at removing invasive rhododendron, but also putting in access tracks which enable fantastic woodland management, but also improve public access to those ancient woodlands. And if you see on the green areas on that map are where we're planting open grown parkland trees as part of the project. You can just see down there, that's Killerton House, just a context. So yeah, that's Killerton House there. This is the motorway coming through. So another project with the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group for the Southwest, we are restoring over 4 kilometres of hedgerows on the estate. So on your map, again, the blue areas dictate or show where we will be doing those plantings. So some of it will be new planting, some of it will be hedge laying. There's one element linked to the colne where we're putting in a 200-metre stretch of brand new Devon hedge banks. So it's a multiple kind of different ways of restoring the hedgerows, but it's adding complexity and connections between landscape features, between woodlands, and just adding that back into landscape from areas that we may have lost over the years. So that's a very specific project with the Farming and Wildlife Advisory Group. So another interesting area is the new wood pasture that you saw on the video with the Highland cattle. So what we're doing here is we're taking away the grazing pressure for a short period. We're allowing the hedgerows to go wide and long and tall. And we're putting in more treed landscape into those areas. And then when the time's right, we'll reintroduce extensive grazing into those wood pastured areas. And the red area will shows you where we're attempting to do that. And just to put that into context, I think the wood pasture is 40 hectares. Somebody worked out that that's 57 football pitches. So if you like football, 57 football pitches. If you like tennis, someone said to me in the summer it was 1,500 tennis courts of wood pasture. So again, this is quite a big scale of effort that we're putting into to create these new habitats. Again, they'll be storing more water, they'll be storing carbon. Wood pasture will help restore the soil. So it's a really important habitat for us here at Killerton. A smaller project as part of our green recovery is agroforestry. So again, you can see the orange area on the map represents one of the areas. We've got 2 areas, including working with Heathfield Farm for agroforestry. Agroforestry really means putting in a produce tree within the grazed landscape. So we're looking at putting in fruit trees, walnuts, cob nut trees within the grazed landscape. So again, we can store carbon, we can have a product from it, but also we maintain an element of grazing of rough grassland around those new trees. So yeah, that's one of the additional projects for this year. So finally, really coming to the River Colne work that we're doing at Killerton, you can see this picture here that it really shows the extent of one of the scrapes that we've made this year. And I'm going to pass on to Joe Neville to really give you more insight into what we've been doing on the Colne over the last 4 months. But just to give you the context and the geography of where Joe will be talking about, I'll just pull up the map of where specifically this area is on the River Colne. So for those of you that know or don't know the area, this is Killerton House here with the clump. And this is the main Exeter to Paddington railway line, motorway coming down through here. And the River Colne area that we are working on is this 2-kilometre stretch. So this is Ella Hayes, the bridge up the top, and then this is Column John Farm down the bottom here. And we are focused this river restoration work on the first 2-kilometre stretch of this. So when I pass on to Jo Neville, she will be talking in more detail about the Colne, but just so you can understand where these different areas that she's talking about are, that's the context for it. So there'll be opportunities at the end to, if you've got any questions, we'll try and answer those. But you can see the scale of what we're doing at Killerton is bigger than anything else we've tried to achieve in the past few years. And it is thanks to the funding, but also the collaboration with our partners. So I'll pass over to Jo Neville, and I look forward to answering any of your questions later on.
Brilliant, thanks Tim. Right, let me just see if I can get going with mine too. Hopefully that works for everybody. Yeah, so yeah, I love seeing Tim running through that and just looking at the scale of everything that's going on, and yeah, really pleased to be part of this project. It's such an exciting thing to be part of, and it's really nice, like Tim said, to see actually stuff happening on the ground and things going on. So yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about the floodplain element of it, which is the bit that I'm most involved in. So sorry if you joined the webinar back in the spring, although I don't know how many of you did, because they just opened hairdressers and beer gardens at the time, so you'll be forgiven if you were out enjoying those. So I'll just kind of skim through the background a bit and then give you a quick update on kind of progress. So just oh, hang on, there we go. Yeah, so this just shows you a little bit about, some of you probably know the site better than I do, and some of you might not know it at all. So let me just, this just gives you an idea of some of the habitats that we've been working on. So it is a really important corridor through the landscape, the river, and it does support quite a lot of wildlife already. There's definitely otter that we know are on the river. There's quite a lot of birds and other species, but definitely room for enhancement and to kind of add value and provide habitats for a wider range of species. So as you can see, it does look really lush and green, but it is quite lacking in kind of a bit of the structure and diversity that allows those kind of, some of the species to use it. The area floods really regularly, but the water does sort of drain away pretty quickly. And what we're trying to do is hold on to some of that water for a bit longer in the landscape and provide some of the benefits of that. And also provide more resilience to the hot topic, the impacts of climate change and some of these extreme weather events that we're going to see more of as we go through. So this is just another kind of aerial view down from the top. So like Tim was talking about before, Killerton House is up the top here, and then you can see the kind of parkland and the woodland, and this is the corridor that we're working on at the moment. So this is what it looks like at the moment. It's been very well managed and primarily grazed. So you can see the river kind of wiggling through the landscape here. But we've been working to look at the vision a bit like they have for the wider estate in terms of what we can do to sort of increase value, to encourage natural processes within this area, to sequester carbon and provide more habitats for wildlife and people. And yeah, and so sorry, I'm looking at two screens here, which is confusing my poor brain. So this is a bit of a vision that we've been working on. So you can see here, it's bringing in some more of the diversity. So you can see the different colours coming through. We're looking at creating wetland scrapes, wildflower meadows, park wood up the back, like Tim was talking about. They're doing some of the rhododendron removal, removing some of the conifer and increasing the broadleaf cover in this area. Wet woodlandy areas, and kind of towards up towards the Column John Farm is where we're looking at doing kind of slightly more managed habitats again, things like wetland meadows and water meadows and hay meadows, and sort of some of the bigger parkland trees up that area. So this is kind of a wide vision. So what we want to do is just sort of kickstart this change. Really, it's going to keep developing, it's going to keep being really dynamic, and we're just sort of going to give it a helping hand and yeah, see where we get to over the next few years. So Roger Worthington, our brilliant artist, has created some visuals which help stop me waffling and show it a bit more visually for people. So he's done 3 sort of slices through the landscape to show what's there at the moment, and then the sort of thing that we're looking at trying to create. So this is the eastern section, so up towards the kind of Ella Hayes end that we call it, where the little car park is, if for those of you who know the site. And you can see the parkwood plantation up the back, which will be changing to give some more open glades and to give more kind of broadleaf cover in that area. And then this is down into the floodplain section where we're working. So we're looking at creating some more wildflower meadows on the slopes up above the floodplain, and then more diversity in the floodplain itself with more standing water and patches of scrub and trees through there. So we'll look at doing other elements as well, so bat and bird boxes and dead wood for invertebrates, and looking at the margins and the river habitats in terms of fish. It's going to hopefully create some brilliant habitats for things like eel, which are really struggling in some of our some areas at the moment. And then we'll go on through to the central section. So again, at the moment, sort of very green, very flat, and we're looking again to create this kind of structure and diversity again. In this area there is some historic, we call them paleo channels, but old channels where the river used to run, and a historic mill leat as well. So they provide really lovely features and existing features in the landscape, which we're going to try and sort of highlight and create some standing water within those, and create marginal planting and other elements through there. And then down on for our vision towards the other end, which is the towards Column John Farm, where there are some more kind of ditch sections within this area, some remnant hedgerows and some bigger kind of parkland trees. This is the old seat of the family, and so we're looking to sort of keep with that spirit of the place as the seat of the family. So keep these larger, more open grown trees in this area, keep the kind of parkland feel, and look at the potential for things like floodplain meadows, enhancing that ditch network and creating habitats kind of through that way. So that just gives you a little bit of a flavour about the things that we're trying to achieve. And this shot here is from a drone shot showing you when we got started with the work. So as Tim was mentioning, we've been working with loads and loads of partners and other organisations to kind of design some of these features that we're going to put in, and they've been amazingly helpful, and it's been brilliant working with Environment Agency, Devon Wildlife Trust, all sorts of people who've given us their kind of technical input and thoughts, which has been fantastic to make sure we can do the best we can for the site. So we had contractors who've come in. They did some power harrowing earlier in the year, and they did some seeding on this slope to the left above the floodplain earlier in the year, in the summer, at the end of the summer, and they brought over some amazing green hay from some of the really lovely flower-rich meadows at another National Trust site called Knights Hayes. So that's been spread around on there, and you can't, it's already gone back to lush and green in this shot, but hopefully spring next year we'll start seeing some of those different species and some of the colours and of those coming through, we might have to kind of keep repeating some of those elements just to start getting that through, but it would be really nice to see that bit of diversity. And then we eventually managed to get the groundwork started a little bit later than we were hoping, but we managed to get on in September. And we were so lucky to get a couple of just amazing weeks of weather in September, so that we could get the diggers and the dumpers in, which was a huge relief, because we moved to probably we think somewhere in the region of 200 tons of soil off the floodplain in that time, and under the kind of watchful eye of our archaeologists. So that was really helpful, and that all got transported just around the corner, stayed on the estate, and that, like Tim was talking about earlier, has gone to create some new Devon hedge banks, which will get planted up over the winter, and will also increase habitat right across the estate. So you can see some, the kind of impacts of all that digger and dumper transport. You can see all these kind of the tracks across the site. So we have had one of the brilliant tenants on the farm has come in and done some aeration there, so to kind of take away some of that compaction, and they are already kind of springing back to life. So hopefully that will disappear very soon, but the scrapes will remain. So here's just a few pictures of the work itself in progress. Again, really nice to see from the air the kind of different, we've tried to work with the shapes of the landscape, so the kind of forms of the landscape. So we haven't got any kind of square forms. They're all very sinuous and a mixture of depths. So we've got some kind of deeper pool sections where we hope that we'll get sort of semi-permanent water in those sections, and then other areas will much shallower, and they will just be sort of, they'll hold water for a little bit, and then they'll be sort of marginally wet, kind of boggy, marshy areas for some of the rest of the year. So just get that diversity of habitats through there. And then these are the ones that we've created. So we've created 3 pretty big scrapes in the kind of big first field that you come to, what I call the Ella Hayes field. And then we are creating some more features across the other side of the river, and on down towards the Column John farm end. But they're going to be more sort of smaller features, more pool-like features, like a little little sections of pool-like features, and rather than these sort of bigger scrapes, but they will do the same, have the same effect in terms of just holding water in the landscape for longer, creating this structure. And then some photos of what we then got
a whole world of rain after our lovely dry time. So we amazingly timed it really well. It was amazing, really brilliant to watch them kind of fill straight up. The whole landscape got flooded very quickly, actually. Everything filled up, and then it was really nice to see it drained out of kind of the surrounding sites, and has been held really nicely within these scrapes. So you can see from these pictures they're quite silty. There's a lot of silt coming in. That's obviously partly due to the work that we've been doing, and obviously the water within the culm is pretty silty quite often too. That does actually settle out quite quickly, and the impact of having these scrapes also means that they will hold some of this sediment in the land. So and especially as we take some of the grazing pressure off and allow some of that structure back into the landscape, that will also hold some of the sediment, which will be great news in terms of the gravels and some of the river habitats, and then also that will create its own habitats going forward. So these scrapes won't stay like they look for very long. I don't think we'll get build up of sediment in different places and different flows in different places, but that will be fantastic to create all sorts of floodplain habitats and kind of recreate some of the way that the water would have moved naturally before the land was quite so managed. So we will be doing a little bit of seeding and a little bit of planting around some of the scrapes, and some of the others we're going to leave and just see what colonizes naturally, and we'll sort of take it from there and decide. We'll see what comes through, and we'll plant some of them and see which ones work out best. Use that as a little bit of an experiment. So and some will be left very open to give a kind of also a mixture of habitats, and some will be tree planting around to give a sort of wet woodland feel around some of them, some of the different ones. So this next slide shows you, I was talking earlier about, you can see hopefully some of this kind of sinuous line through this field where we've got some old channels that used to run through there, and a historic mill leat. So this is one of the ones that we haven't got to yet, that we'll be doing in the next few kind of weeks and months. So it won't be quite as big a scale as the ones that I've just shown you, but it'll be we'll be just taking select little pools out along this, kind of highlighting the feature. We'll be doing some marginal planting, and we'll also be putting some larger trees in there to complement these existing lovely big oaks that you can see. And then behind, we're going to be putting some mixed tree and scrub patches in. We'll be doing different densities, so some really dense little patches and other kind of slightly less dense patches. And that's going to go right across the site, different patches of scrub and trees. So no huge blocks, but lots of mix of native species, so we can create some of this structure and habitats and shelter. We have done surveys right across the site, so we're being really careful that we just plant into the habitats that have been intensively managed and are species poor, so we're not going to be losing any of the nice little wetland corners or any of the kind of areas of botanical diversity. So then other works that we're going to be doing through the winter, we're going to be looking at the tree works like you saw in that video. So doing select works to provide light and shade along the river, and using some of that material to prevent erosion in some of the bankside areas, and also create some features. So we're hoping to use some of that wood to make things like an artificial otter holt and invertebrate habitats. We'll be creating those where we can, using some of that material. We're going to be creating a new route at the Elahays end, so a gate has already gone up at the top. The rangers have done fantastic work, and they're already creating some of the signage so that we can, some of these habitats we are really keen to keep as I can't think of the word so some of them will be open, and we will have people will be able to walk through and experience these areas, and others are going to be kept a bit quieter and more secluded for wildlife. So we've some of the fencing has already gone in, ready for this tree planting. One section of it I know has already taken a little bit of a battering from the floods that we've already had. So that's a learning lesson for us. We're going to adapt a little bit. Most of it is we've tried to design so that it will, the flows will go past it, but some of it may have to be adapted as we go through. That's fine. We are always willing to learn lessons. And then, yeah, and as things change on the site, that we're just going to keep an eye on things, and where we can add value and add benefit, then we will do, and where things are coming along and establishing naturally themselves and nicely, then we'll just leave that to do its own work. So we are hoping to can get funding to sort of continue this project. This is hopefully just the kind of first stage of nudging things along. I'd love to do things like I talked about before in terms of expanding some of the ditch network up towards Column John Farm and some of those big parkland trees. And also there's other elements which once we get some of these habitats established, then we can look at doing things like water vole reintroduction. We know that water vole used to be present on this site, aren't anymore. So we're currently doing some surveys to look at the feasibility of bringing things back like water vole, which would be really, really lovely to see on the estate. So yeah, so on that, we've been doing lots of monitoring. We've been doing loads of surveys and worked at the site to get a good baseline. So we've done all sorts of ecology surveys, landscape, archaeology, and the ecology surveys have included fish surveys, aquatic inverts, and we've had some of the brilliant National Trust volunteers have been amazing at doing all sorts of things for us, butterflies, birds, bats. And we're looking at, yeah, otter and mink, but we're also done surveys of the vegetation and the botanical species that are there. We've also looked at soil samples, so in terms of water depths, but also nutrients in the soil and carbon, how much carbon this might be able to store doing work like this. And we're also looking at things like water flow and water quality. So we have a sonde in the water which is pinging back information to us, which we're going to hopefully, yeah, analyze and then just show to people, and you can see the impact of some of these different events, rainfall events and droughts that have on the water and the wildlife in the water. So yeah, we've had some archaeologists from Reading University doing some paleo coring, so they're looking at some of the pollen samples from hundreds and thousands of years ago, so that's a work in progress, also really, really exciting, really interesting. And what we're going to aim to do is kind of have a suite of surveys that will be kind of simple and repeatable, and that they can get done year on year, and we can see the changes that are happening and the impacts it's having on wildlife and all the other different kind of ecosystems that are present on the site. So yeah, we've got bat detectors up at the moment. We've got trail cameras out. I know there are otters on site. They are doing currently a fantastic job of avoiding my trail camera, but I will keep trying and keep everyone posted on that, so hopefully I'll get some at some point. But there's definitely opportunities, so if anyone is kind of keen to be involved or help out, we'd love to have some volunteers. We are definitely going to get people involved in some of the tree planting that we're doing. We've got a load of tree planting all through the winter, and we'd love to have people come and help out with some of that. So we'll get some dates in the calendar, and we'll keep you posted on that. We're looking at the moment at kind of dates in January and February, hopefully, where we'll be able to organise a few days and get people out helping us with that. And then there's other activities. So we're looking to get, as Tim, both Tims were talking about before, this citizen science in terms of water quality and other elements. And then we're hoping probably to do some sort of guided walks and some other things later in the year, just to give you a bit more of a hands-on experience and show you some of the work that's been doing and how it's establishing. Yeah, so I could keep rambling for quite a long time, but I think I will just pass back now And if anyone's got any questions, then yeah, we'd happily answer those. So thanks very much for listening.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic, Joe and Tim. Really inspiring. Yeah, to be honest, I had no idea quite how much was going on. So yeah, really amazing work. So thank you very much. So yeah, we've got almost 15 minutes or just short of 15 minutes for some questions. So I was going to attempt to summarize or look at what was in the chat. So the first one was, Joe, could you just, so people are keen to volunteer, there are quite a few questions about volunteering. So could you just summarize, if people want to watch this space and keep an eye on opportunities, where should they go for, whether it's, because there was a question about planting trees, bird surveying and other monitoring. So where should people register or look out for, or to Sarah as well?
Well, I think I might pass you. I think yeah. So we're definitely working on it at the moment in terms of just finalising sort of the organisation of it and finalising a couple of dates for you. So I imagine they will get advertised. We'll probably advertise them through Connecting the Calm and also on the National Trust website and through the kind of Killerton channels. So yeah, I think if that's unless Tim has any other, I don't know the normal way that you engage with all your kind of volunteers in terms of getting people involved, but yeah, we'll advertise it through, so similar channel, you know, we'll do it in the Connecting the Com newsletter, we'll go out through Killerton, through the website and through the kind of volunteer network too. If you're an existing volunteer, then we'll contact you that way. But yeah, we'll definitely try and advertise it widely so that people can get involved. Be really great to have people on site. Have been missing that element of the project through the pandemic, definitely.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Tim, just to say we're planning on doing community tree planting events in January and February. So we'll be advertising those on our website. And then in terms of monitoring wildlife surveys, that season will start in the spring. So it won't be until later next year that we'll be doing any further surveys. But yeah, the tree planting will be advertised on our website and on our social media channels. So look out for that, and there'll be big blocks of the tree planting left for communities to be involved. So we look forward to that aspect of it.
Yeah, thanks very much. Maybe Sarah or Dominic could pop the hello at Connecting the Calm in the chat as well. Again, yeah. So lots of other questions. So somebody mentioned stage 0 in there, in a question, and what could you maybe explain what that is, Tim and Joe, and just say how you might be applying it or not? Because it is quite of interest to people.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely kind of a bit of a buzz word at the moment, and something that's been investigated in quite a lot of projects. So for this project, we're not undertaking stage 0, and in a very nutshell way, stage 0 is basically trying to get a river. The thinking behind it is that the river systems, they didn't used to be one single kind of channel river. Rivers used to be sort of braided channels out, creating these big kind of wetland areas, these big floodplain areas where you'd get multi-channeled rivers that would go through. And now, because the way that we've drained wetlands quite frequently, and they've become quite channelized and sometimes quite disconnected from their floodplains. And so stage 0 is in effect sort of raising up the level of the riverbed so that it becomes more connected with the floodplain, so that it becomes this network of braided channels and more connected with the floodplain, rather than just one kind of single incised channel. And that obviously, in order to kind of make that work, you have to do quite a lot of monitoring. You have to be sure that the impacts of that aren't going to be detrimental upstream or downstream. You have to look at the connections, and it's quite a big piece of work, really. And for the kind of timescales that we had with this Green Recovery Fund, it's just not something that's kind of feasible to do. And obviously there's big significant infrastructure next to our site too in terms of the railway line, so that would be a big piece of work. But we are some of the work we're doing will kind of, you know, increase the standing water and increase the connection of the river and its floodplain and the habitats within the floodplain, wet woodland and things like that. So we're not really doing stage 0, but we're taking some of those kind of the elements of it and incorporating those into the project in the kind of the timescales that we have to do that.
Yeah, thanks. And somebody asked about natural regeneration, so I assume you're looking at that as well as actually planting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So we've created some enclosures where we're going to be planting within. We are trying not to use guards on the floodplain, partly because we're trying to reduce our plastic use kind of throughout the I know that National Trust and West Country Rivers Trust trying to reduce plastic as much as we can throughout our supply chains, and also because it's quite a there's quite a velocity of water flow that goes through some of these areas, so where we can avoid having kind of too much material in the floodplain, then we will. So we've created these kind of bigger enclosures where we're going to plant in, like I said, in a mixture of densities, some really dense areas and some less dense areas, and that will also help in kind of terms of predation. And we will plant and we will accept that there will be some loss of trees, and that's sort of outweighed by the fact that we don't have to buy and put a load of guards in. I've forgotten the question now, sorry.
That's okay, no, you answered it, that's fine. A few questions about access. So I think the other Tim answered many of them, but could you just summarise what new opportunities there'll be or any changes?
Yes, so Emma, I know that Emma, one of the rangers, is on as well, so she might be able to also talk about it a little bit. But within the kind of floodplain area, so there's no specific footpaths that go through that at the moment. It's all kind of permissive access, and there's no access at the moment currently at all across the other side of the river, and that is where we are hoping to keep it primarily for wildlife. And so we're not planning to increase access into that area, but we will look in potentially in the future at sort of viewing platforms or using other features such as, you know, the trail cameras and other things, so that we can kind of get a view into what's going on there. At the Elahays end, we are looking to create an extra loop. So at the moment you can only kind of go into the field and walk back out, but we're going to create a loop round up onto the track that's just below Park Wood, for those of you who know the site, so that you will be able to walk through and see some of these scrape areas and then kind of walk back along the track in a new kind of circular walk. And actually up above from that track is the best place really to see. You can see kind of right across where we're doing these works, and that will give you a really good view across. So there will be access in, there will be areas where people can go in and kind of experience some of these features, but there'll also be some areas where we'll try and limit access and just give the wildlife a kind of, you know, some areas of shelter and sanctuary in some of those places. Yeah.
Brilliant. Changing subject now to water quality data. So this sonde that so is a sonde, it might be worth explaining what it is, but also how whether you are going to share the data and put it online, for example.
Yeah, we're hoping to. Yeah, so it's that is a partnership. So Connecting the Colne, that is part of the Connecting the Colne project, but it is within the Killerton site, that sonde, and that monitors a variety of different elements of water quality, and that it pings back data. It's all the time, so we're getting a constant kind of flow of data, looking at all sorts of different elements in terms of different parameters that it looks at. And at the moment people are sort of analysing that data. I think we did one little blog post on one of the Connecting the Colne newsletters, which just highlighted a few elements. So one of them was that over the summer, in that really hot period, if you can remember back to those heady days, some of the water temperature actually at Killerton reached, I think it was 22 or 23 degrees, which is kind of quite a shocking number really, and that's at at that sort of numbers, then salmonids and other fish sort of start to get into distress. So it's really interesting to see the effect already that some of these kind of weather events are having on some of the wildlife. What we're hoping to do initially is just sort of analyze some of the data, and then maybe monthly kind of have a look at what weather events and how they impacted kind of the river. But then I think one of the ambitions is to sort of try and put that into a dashboard so that it could be put online or with a public facing element of it, so that people can then sort of have a look at it and investigate the data and have a look at how different weather events are impacting the water quality and the kind of flows down towards Killerton.
Excellent. Yeah, and perhaps the last question we've got time for, I don't know whether Tim wanted to take this. Yeah, really about future management and maintenance and an associated survey. So is it going to be quite hands-off and natural process led, or is it going to be, you're going to have to re-dig out scrapes and things like that? So just to get a feel for what may happen over the next 5 to 10 years, I guess.
Yeah, so the initial thing is that we're taking away the grazing pressure from the land. So somebody mentioned about natural regeneration, and by having a period without grazing, natural regeneration is possible across the whole of that site. So we can put in specific areas, but really to allow natural processes, we need to just take away the grazing pressure and see what seed sources in the valley, what naturally happens. In terms of the management of the land, the National Trust Ranger team will be taking on the work on the culm for the foreseeable future, but we will be looking at introducing grazing down the line with farm tenants again. So it's not forever, but it's when we've got the habitats right and we're happy with what's being established there and it's resilient, then we will bring in extensive grazing back into that area. So it's we're looking at a short period really where that's not happening, and that will allow those natural processes to happen. I struggle to say processes. It's one of those. Is that okay, Tim?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, well, sadly, that's all we've got time for. So, no, that's been a fascinating evening, and thank you very much. I was remiss of me at the start, and I should have said it, that I'm actually standing in for Stephen Johnson, who's project manager. So I should have explained that. Apologies. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. Many thanks to the speakers, Tim and Joe. It's been lots to take in there. Thank you very much for coming, spending your evening with us. Keep an eye on our websites. Join up and volunteer. The links in the chat. And I guess I'm not sure what the plans are for the next event like this, but we really want to keep in touch with you and get involved and and work in partnership, and exciting times. So thanks again, and see you next time.